This has been probably one of the most helpful equations or frameworks around understanding trust that I've come across over the years. It's out of this book, The Trusted Advisor. You probably don't have to buy the book because you're going to get the nuts and bolts of the concept here in the next slide. It's one of those, it probably could have been a blog post, but it turned into a book, but it's all good. But the trust equation gives us the factors, gives us the some of the pieces, or language anyway, to understand what are the building blocks of trust, what builds it and what breaks it. And so we'll dig into it right now. So this is the trust equation. And so we've got kind of this idea of being trustworthy is a combination of our credibility, right? And credibility is our education and our experience, right? Have I learned the things, or have I done the things, right? To be credible as an expert, or credible as someone who knows what to do in this situation. So I've got the kind of credibility piece. Reliability is equal parts probably dependability, right? And predictability, right? There are people that I trust to be late, right? Because they're always late, right? They're dependably late, right? And so I can take that to the bank. Intimacy in this model is empathy and discretion. So those two pieces that I pulled out and put in my definition of trust that's what intimacy is. It's that empathy in that I'm going to be with you and feel the pain with you. I'm going to understand, I'm going to hold space for that experience, and I'm going to hold that to myself. I'm going to have discretion with that. You can trust that I'm not going to go and tell your whoever, your boss, your coworker, with that. So that's intimacy in this framework. And I realize that's probably a loaded word that has lots of different kind of connotations in other relationships. And then self-orientation is the trust breaking factor in this model. So the top of the equation, these are all building factors. And an easy way to break trust is to have a really high level of self-orientation, right? To have a really high ego, to come into every relationship or every experience with a what's in it for me perspective and try and extract value out of that exchange or out of that relationship. That's what they're talking about with self-orientation. So that's the trust equation. And it's a really helpful roadmap for me in understanding where might I be lacking trust with someone. Is it in one of these domains? Is there a behavior that I'm seeing that is building trust in this or that domain? And interestingly, I'll stop sharing here, actually, because we're going to talk about it. We're going to do some breakouts. Interestingly, I put a poll out on LinkedIn on Monday and asked social media, what's the most important factor? Because they've done a lot of research on which one of these stands out, like in which order. And actually, just a show of hands, we'll go through them. We'll do a quick poll here to see if it's congruent. Who would say that credibility is the most important factor? Who would say reliability? Okay, we got one. We got Tracy. Who would say intimacy? Nick and Laura. Who would say self-orientation, ego? Who's still thinking? Okay, we got four, about half. Okay. It's intimacy. The research shows very clearly that it's intimacy, and of intimacy, it's actually empathy is the driving factor in interpersonal trust when we're building relationships, followed by ego, followed by reliability, and then credibility actually comes in last. And usually, and it showed up in my LinkedIn poll, was that people score credibility and reliability the highest, and the other two the lowest. And so we've got there's something interesting happening there around what we think builds trust and what actually releases oxytocin or gets us into those dopamine places. So